and shoot deer. And to the point that I said, I'm going to get one of those rifles one day. And my dad gave me one as a Christmas gift years ago. So I had good memories of the deer shack, and I think the camp fell apart. Maybe when he got his own land and the Ponderosa, I guess he called it. And a few years ago, going through my father's mementos, trying to understand where like this big 15-point buck was shot. My brother Kevin and I went out to visit Merv out on his property. And what a gorgeous piece of property it is. And he can't hear it well, and he knock on the door, and there's Merv on the treadmill, watching the swamp. And Merv lets us in. We spent the whole afternoon talking deer shack memories, looking at the trophies on the walls. Where's Jack, Steve, everyone at now? And it was just good to reconnect with Merv, and he told us stories and that. And if I was envious of Mervin's ability to shoot deer with his Savage 99, I guess I probably was kind of envious of Merv, how in the end he had that beautiful property and all his memories on the walls and his kids to support him. And Merv just did everything right. And we'll miss him.
Amen.
So.
Thank you, Keith. Anybody else?
I'll probably wonder where me and my sister fit into all this. And yeah, it was definitely hunting my dad, but towards the later end of his life, it was gambling and drinking. And that's where me and my sister had a lot of our memories from.
Anybody else?
Well, I have a memory that includes the girls. These last few years, I kind of came to family later, so I didn't get all those earlier experiences with Merv, but I had the joy of being their fill-in driver for dialysis. And I got to hear every once in a while about the girls' driving. So he always had such a fun personality. He always kind of said, I'm such a bother. And we say, this is really the highlight of my week, because you get to hear his stories and him talking and his family and his love for each of them and the different skills that they have with their hunting and fishing, but they're driving too. So anyway, Merv will be, there's a great kind of saying that says, I wish I found you earlier so I could love you longer. And he's just that kind that always been our heart, so we can love him forever. And I'm so thankful knowing that I will see him again, and we will get to love him longer. So.
Anybody else? Mike?
No. You've been in service a lot longer.
My name is Mike O'Shea. I am Merv's neighbor to the east. I've been his neighbor for several decades. And Merv was a person I visited with almost weekly for 2 decades. And I do struggle on how to say goodbye. And I know the answer now is that you don't. Maybe the indigenous people of this land really have the right answer. Anishinaabe, the northern Chippewa, Ojibwe, many of their clans got together. They met, they talked, they communicated, and they parted. And what they said was, until we meet again. And I feel that way. God, I could tell you so many stories. Rowing across Wilbur to blow up beaver dams. Interesting time with Merv. He had stories about dynamite. Walking the trails, partridge hunting. But the ones that I like best are what we did at the kitchen table. We would sit down and we would start talking. Everything, politics, conservatives, Republicans, what's on TV. Then we would talk about our wives, or past wives, our kids. But the one that I need to tell is one that I started with Lynn some time ago. You see, when you went to visit Merv, there were the signs. Is the bottom garage door open? Are the four-wheelers at home? Is the pickup in the garage? Is the light on in the kitchen? And you walk up and you knock on the door and you look. This one day when I went over to visit Merv, well, I did all those things. And I went to the back door and I knocked and I looked and there was no answer. Merv wasn't in the kitchen, but the light was on. But Merv's dog Nellie would paw down towards the living room and then back towards the door. Paw down towards the living room to the back door. Something's wrong. So I go in the door, I look in the bedroom, no Merv. I peek around the corner, Merv's not in his chair. And I look into the living room, and there's Merv. He's sitting on the far left-hand side of the couch, staring directly ahead. And he has his hands folded on his lap, and he's not acknowledging me. And I go over to his side, and I sit down, and I take his hand, and I'm looking for eye dilation, pulse, the whole works. So Merv, are you okay, Merv? Merv? And he turns his head so slowly towards me, and he looks at me and he said, I think I'm going to be okay. I said, what's wrong, Merv? Merv? I think I'm going to be okay. And he said, you know, Merv, that pennant around your neck, that little button, if you push that, you're going to get help. And he looked down at the pennant and he picked it up and he said, kids. So I stopped for a minute and I said, loved ones. Kids. And I said, you know, Merv, if you push that button, I know my phone will ring. I'm just a little ways away. And he so slowly turned over to me and he said, will you help me die? So I opened my mouth to talk to him, and there weren't no damn words that came out. And I tried again, and I couldn't say anything. Oh, God. So I helped him up. I changed the subject. I moved him to the kitchen table, and I made sure that he could walk, talk, he was lucid and feeling pretty good. And I got him to admit that he had had an event. And I left him. And I got out the door, and I called Lynn, and I said, Lynn, I think your dad wants it to come to an end. But I was troubled. I went home that night, and I was troubled. And I couldn't think the next day. And I went to visit a friend of mine, one of the local pastors, Mark Olson. And I started telling Mark about what I experienced. And he knew a couple verses of comfort and decided I might want to share that with him. And I said, nah, I don't think so. And then he stopped me and he said, you know, Mike, the guy's 90 years old. He doesn't need any help dying. He knows how to die. Jack's right. God, I got back into my car and I drove all the way out there and I drove up his driveway and I didn't look for any signs if he was home. I marched right into the door and I opened it up and he's sitting in a chair and I walked over there and I said, Merv, damn it, you got me and you know it. And he slowly turns his head and his big smile comes across his face and he starts to chuckle and after a while we're both laughing and just having a good time. So I kind of knelt down and I took Merv's hand, and I do that now and then, and I said, Merv, now you got me here. And I said, it's the part of living in dying that I'm here to help you with. I said, have you talked to your kids? And he looked at me very slowly like this, and he said, loved ones? And I said, yeah, loved ones. And he said, yeah, he said, I need to do that. He said, 3 days good out of 4 days of the week isn't going to make it. And I said, they need to know. And they need to know what you want to do, because their life is about you and what you want to do to the end. So I said, if you're my friend, you will talk to them. Otherwise, I will. So he thanked me for being his neighbor for all these years. And I will always remember that. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Anna, Steve's daughter and Merv's granddaughter. And I was just thinking about like how considerate he was and how big of a heart he had. You know, we live in Denver and we would come up here and visit a lot, and ever since I was younger, it's like he knew that I didn't want to sit around and talk to all the old people, you know. He was always making sure I was having fun and, you know, teaching me how to drive and the four-wheelers. And I remember I was up here, I was probably 10 or 11, and he was teaching me how to shoot a gun. And then on my 12th birthday, he gave me a 300 Savage pump action that I shot my first and only buck with. And he remembered, you know. And I remember I was 18, I just turned 18. And we came up here, and the first thing he said, he's like, I'm taking you gambling. And, you know, the same thing when I was 21 and drinking. And it's just like, he remembered all, you know, he remembered my birthday, and he, you know, made me feel special. And he was just so compassionate and so kind. And I am so happy to be here and hear everyone say all this great stuff, so thank you all.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Okay.
Mike Conlon.
Are you late?
Yeah. I can't let it go by without saying something. Yeah, my name's Corey Cease, and thinking about it, one thing here is pretty true, is that Merv was a mentor, and he did it his own quiet way. Like I said already, he did it by example, and he didn't need any words. You know, he really didn't. And he was a very practical man too, the way he thought. There wasn't a lot of deliberation about the right way to do things a lot of time, because the way to do it is, you know, the logical way, and that just was Merv. And thinking of just when he moved out to the new property out there, it was about the time when, you know, I had gotten married, and I was living in the cities and needed to get out of there, and would come up hunting, and I'd hunt out at his place, and then I'd come out, hang with him, and have coffee with him, have a beer with him, and he was just like somebody my own age. He accepted everybody for who they were. And it's funny to hear all these people talk about 300 Savages. I was thinking here, yeah, I've been shooting one for 20 years too. I remember when I got it, I showed it to him. I said, I got one just like yours, Merv. And he goes, no, yours has bluing on it. And thinking of him as a mentor and teaching us how to hunt, my favorite story, and we told it to him this fall. Wanted to see if he remembered, but, you know, we always listened to his little words of wisdom about hunting, and it must have been, we were out at deer camp, and it must have been a Sunday morning, it was pouring rain outside, and one of those real warm November days, and nobody got up early to go out, but, you know, doggone it, I want to get out hunting, so started talking to Merv about it. He goes, yeah, oh, geez, Corey, you know, the deer really move under them balsams really heavy when it's pouring rain out. You know, well, Merv says the deer move when it's pouring rain out, you know. So I get the woolies on, I get out there, and I sit out in the deer stand for a few hours, and, you know, the longer I'm there, the heavier that jacket gets. That wool jacket's getting heavier and heavier. Pretty soon it's just dripping. And I go, well, that's, you know, I just got to keep on staying out here. Merv said they move when it's raining. You know? So finally, you know, I couldn't take the dripping anymore. I went back to camp, and as soon as I walked in, everybody in the whole camp was burst out laughing at me. And Merv pulled a fast one. And that was the same thing. When I told him that story this fall, he kind of looks up, he smiles, and he burst out laughing. Anyway, that's my favorite Merv story. And I do want to note that I know Wayne Cheese did want to be here, and if he had any chance to, he would be. So.
Thank you. I have a few announcements here. Following the military rites outside, we'll be having a little luncheon in the luncheon parlors here in the back of the chapel here. And also, the family brought in a shoulder mount of Merv's last buck that he shot. It's a beautiful 8-point buck. He was 89 years old when he shot that buck. So make sure that you do see it. Another thing the family asked me to pass on to you is that there will be a gathering of friends and family at 5 p.m. at Fireside this afternoon with beverages and more Merv stories. Is that right? So, if everybody please stand up, and we're going to join in the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. We're going to be going outside where they're going to be having military rites. If the family would just please follow me, and friends, you can follow me.